This is Nicole Sanders. I'm here tonight with Sean Di Somma. He is running for council in Red Bank. And I just wanted to start off and give Sean an opportunity to talk about, the Democrats have been trying to, think of anything they can to attack him because, he's doing good in the race and they feel threatened. So one of the things that that's made the newspapers that I wanted to give him a chance to clarify is the fact that, apparently in Texas, he got a ticket for not stopping at a stop sign, and there are allegations that there was a warrant out for his arrest. So I just wanted to give you, the time before we get into the interview to, clarify what that's all about.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of completely mismanaged government. I got a ticket a couple of years ago, paid the ticket with a check. Apparently they sent me the check back a year later, which is a public information officer verified. But I'm not sure anybody in the city of Dallas realized that you can't cash a check a year later, and I never received it. Then all of a sudden I hear the Democrats are saying that I have a warrant. So I went and, like a good citizen, I went ahead and paid my fine right away. And the following day called up and said, hey, look, has there been a warrant? Everybody said, no. I even had reporters on the phone on conference call, and they were able to verify, no. And then all of a sudden, magically, Friday at 5 o'clock, some warrant appears, which has since disappeared again. So now apparently there's no warrant again. And, I've hired counsel to deal with the situation, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I've paid their ticket twice, and the city of Dallas just seems to have an incredibly messed up system.
Okay. Now, I saw that one of the big newspapers that were coming after you was the Asbury Park Press, and I noticed that Art Gallagher had put out a piece in More Monmouth Musing asking for them to write a retraction. Has that ever happened?
It has not, and because what's happened is there's been so much conflicting information. From one minute to the next, there's always something different happening with this situation. So one minute there's no warrant, then the next minute there is a warrant. The Asbury Park press reporter verified via the phone system that there was a warrant, but then when we called people, they said there wasn't. So I've got to be honest, the Asbury Park press reporter did his job. With the information that he had. Art Gallagher really did a great job at kind of highlighting the incredible craziness of what apparently goes on when you get a ticket in Dallas. So, I appreciate everybody's good work. But no, they have not retracted anything. And they tried to. They were willing to the next day. And then all of a sudden they got more different conflicting information. So, it's basically this whole thing is stuck in the muck. And in all fairness, voters realize, and I see it knocking on doors, voters realize that it's nutty, and it's four-term incumbent politicians just playing dirty politics. And, I think it's blown back on them severely.
Yeah, usually when the opposition starts digging and attacking, that means that they're scared that you're going to win, and I think that that's what's happening in Red Bank.
Yeah, and look, we've raised more money in Red Bank than we ever had in the past, number one. We've knocked on more doors in Red Bank than anybody since, I think, Jen Beck and Don Philly were here at least. We've gone out and really attack them on their record, because what they have are very long records of failure. And we've been able to highlight that piece by piece, break it down in an intelligent, civil, but confrontational manner. And, at the end of the day, they have no answer for their record, so they have to try to attack somebody personally. And, in all fairness, that's political tactic, which is employed by employed by politicians all the time, it's been blowing back on them, and they're feeling it out there.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on from that, and we'll get into the main interview. So I wanted to ask you first and foremost, and you touched on it a little bit, but why do you feel that you're a more viable candidate in comparison to your opponents?
Well, my opponents have been on the council for a very long time. We have a 6-0 Democrat council. We haven't had a Republican win in their first time running in this town for about, I don't know, somebody told me 30 years the other day. But when you look at the long record, this town's been controlled by Democrats for 20 years, and you look at the tax increases, the water and sewer rate increase, and you look and then you look on the council and you see the same people there for all these years, and you look and you say, well, what ideas do they have? What are they going to do differently? And the answer is absolutely nothing. So when I've come to the table with a variety of different ideas, how we can run municipal government better, and better for people, not just for municipal employees and or for the members of the council, the message seems to resonate with voters. And given my background and given the work that I do, I've already been able to literally identify about 18% worth of cuts from the municipal budget without actually cutting service. So, that's something that's never been done in this.
Would you care to elaborate in regards to what kind of cuts you have in mind?
Yeah. So number one is figuring out how to create a public-private partnership with the water utility. We're one of the few towns that still own a water and sewer utility. And what they do is they do get very cute, and they go ahead and raise people's water and sewer rates when they spend too much, so that they can cover the shortfall in the municipal budget. And in doing so, we end up paying employees to handle it and run it, as well as pay for the infrastructure cleanup, and pay the interest on the debt that we're currently holding for that. So for a small town with a $20 million budget, we're about $30 million in debt. So essentially, if we can cut some of that debt interest, if we can cut some of the water utility employees or move them into DPW, and start to lose them through attrition. Also, if we can look at privatization of garbage, most towns have done that, and it's been a phenomenal cost savings for taxpayers. So, those are just a couple of different ideas, and I can sit here and talk for 3 hours about different things. So those are, and when you're talking about municipal government, those are the biggest issues, and the biggest places that we can actually cut, as well as provide potentially very likely better service.
Okay. What do you feel are your biggest legislative or personal accomplishments so far?
Yeah, so I'm not a politician, so I certainly don't have any legislative accomplishments. But, from a personal standpoint, I'm 31 years old, and the company I work with now, I can remember starting it in a small office in Montclair about 3 years ago, and a little over 3 years ago, with 9 guys and gals in an office the size of a small hotel room. And we've now built that into one of the biggest firms in our industry, and one of the most profitable firms in our industry. We've been able to actually, I think, create it went from 9 folks to about 260, let's say about 220 full-time employees that we'll have next month. And so to me, the best thing is to say, hey, I went out and I worked really hard to go bring in a client or service a client, and now these 4 or 5 people have jobs, their families get to eat, and they get to prosper as well. That's really satisfying accomplishment. That's really the best part of what I do.
Now, I found it very interesting when I was researching Red Bank for this interview. I saw that Red Bank is actually at jeopardy of losing its library. They're saying that it might be shut down. if elected, what will you do to prevent that from happening, and why is the library possibly going to be shut down?
Well, so the library budget it's a very strange animal. We were deemed the library in the Oxford sheet, and we are required to fund it a certain percentage of our tax levy every single year of our total property tax levy. So it's a little. If I got all the way into it, I think I can't imagine anybody would want to read about it. But what I said about it at the debate last month here was the Andrew Carnegie model of libraries is it's over 100 years old, and it's almost gone, right? So what we need to do, and this is what I'm trying to do in Red Bank, and including deal with the library as well, is how do we bring government into the 21st century? You have politicians, particularly Democratic politicians, that want to bring everything back to the 1940s. And, we've moved on from that era. We've moved on from that type of government, that size government. And it's time for really new ideas. And given the fact that I'm young and energetic and have some business experience, I think that I can help lead this town, including the library, into a 21st century government. There are a lot of different innovative things we can do to save money at the library, and I'm going to try to do those as best I can to help save this library for everybody.
Is it true that the Democrats had to borrow over $300,000 to pay for the sick and vacation time not used by retiring borough appointments employees?
Yes, it is.
Do you agree with the decision? Why or why not?
Well, so, no, I don't agree with the decision at all. But the number is actually $1 million if you go back over the last 3 years. So they've actually borrowed $1 million over the last 3 years. And the reason, just for this purpose, and the reason is because they've spent every last red cent we have. So look, we're obligated to do these things. I wish we weren't. But there's been no leadership from town hall on how to do them. If you're in a situation where you're contractually obligated to pay these sick and vacation leave payouts out, you need a number one plan for it. When I went to the council meeting a few months back, and I asked everybody if they knew what our current total liabilities were for sick and unused vacation leave time, nobody could give me an answer. Not one person could give me an answer to that question. And this is 6 council members, and the mayor wasn't there. So it was 6 council members there at the time. And nobody could give me an answer to the question. So, it just shows the fact that they're so inept, they don't actually realize what we're dealing with, what we may have to deal with down the pike. And nobody said to an employee, hey, why don't you start taking this time because the municipality can't handle it right now. And on top of that, the municipality never saved up any money. So, no, I don't agree with that. It was handled poorly. It's atrocious. It's a perfect example of the piggery in local government, first of all. In addition, and so, no, I don't agree with it, to answer your question.
Okay. Now, I know we're nearing towards the end of election, but we do have Get Out the Vote coming, so people might listen to this interview and want to volunteer or possibly donate. How can they do that, and who can they reach out to?
Yeah, they can come to my Facebook site and go to facebook.com/redbankreformers, and they can just send a message there or write a post there. I've had a lot of folks give $5 and $10 and $25 donations, and we're coming into the home stretch this weekend. Senator Jennifer Beck and Caroline Casagran and Mary Connie Angelini and the Sheriff Golden and everybody's been so helpful here on Red Bank so far. And any additional help, it would be most appreciated.
Okay. And in a few words, can you please tell the residents of Red Bank why they should vote for you and what you want to accomplish if you are elected?
Look, so when I was a kid, I was about 7 or 8 years old. Well, I was 7. And my dad had left. And my dad wasn't the type of guy who felt like he needed to handle his responsibility. And with 2 kids and 2 jobs, trying to hold on to a house where she thought she'd be able to pay for it with 2 incomes. Well, I can remember we're getting up to Halloween time, and it was Halloween that year, and I wanted to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So, all of my friends, one of my friends was going to be Leonardo, one was going to be Michelangelo, one was going to be Raphael, and I was going to be Donatello. Well, my mom couldn't afford to buy me a Halloween costume. So, I was a little chubby kid going to school dressed up as a table. So, right around that time, in my memory, I can remember my mom getting a property tax bill and looking at it. And I can remember the look on my mom's face when she realized she was going to lose the house. And that's a look that always stays with you and stays with you forever. And it's not something that you'll ever forget as long as you live. So when I see politicians in Red Bank who are raising people's property taxes and they don't know, and they have no ability to actually handle a budget. They have no background that gives them any ability to handle that. When they've demonstrated no ability to really care about taxpayers, and all they ultimately care about is, a project they want to do, and I'm not going to make any allegations, but there have been some unscrupulous things done here in Red Bank, and it's been done with taxpayers' money. And so when I look at families in Red Bank that are struggling, and they're struggling to pay their water bills, and they're struggling to pay their property tax, and we have politicians that just don't seem to care, that really bothers me. And I can promise every voter in Red Bank, number one, I will always return your phone call. My phone number is published. I give it out on every piece of literature. And I don't have all the ideas in the world. If you have a good idea, you can always call me. If you want to call me to complain, you can call me to complain. I will always be there to take your call, and I engage with everybody. And number two is, at the end of the day, I'll be fighting for you, fighting for your families and your kids to keep more of your money, and not just put it into this pit that we call the Red Bank municipal government, which just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
Okay. Well, you sound like a solid candidate, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you're able to defeat the Democrats in Red Bank once and for all. Who are your Republican running mates?
My running mate is Cindy Burnham. Cindy is a longtime community member here in town, and so she's been involved for about 30 years in a variety of different projects here, and she's a great person. She's been a blast to run with. She's really knowledgeable about the town and really great on quality of life issues. So she's been a perfect complement to what I've been doing, and I think I've been a very good complement to what she's been doing.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you again for taking the time to let me interview you, and again, I wish you the best of luck in your election next week.
Thanks, Nikki. I appreciate it.